Well, inner healing is simply, as I see it, God heals a human being, a person, on any area where they're sick. I mean, that's why He came, is to renew us and give us new life. And there are the different areas of our humanity that can be really wounded or die. One of them, of course, we know our bodies get sick and they wither up and die. There can be demonic interference on occasion, and that needs to be dealt with. But inner healing is simply the area of our emotions, what's inside us. Not just I have a broken bone, but I have a broken heart. And so it makes sense, if we're talking about healing human beings, that this is that particular area of humanity where many people are really wounded. And we find in experience that God heals more people actually on the inner order, percentage-wise, than He seems to heal in the physical order. And well, just for instance, a large percentage of women in our society are sexually abused. The lowest estimate of young women is 20%, or maybe 30%, and that leaves a permanent impress. And you don't get over it by repentance. I mean, it was somebody else that did this to you. And say, here's a 40-year-old woman who can't relate physically with her husband. It's not her fault. But is there healing for this? And we've discovered every area of our human lives where we're wounded or being destroyed, God has a power to do something about it and to help us. As I see it, there are two elements in most sin. One is where the person makes a decision. I'm going to do this. I know it's wrong, but I'm going to do it. That's what sin is. But there are also these other elements that cloud the vision, that make a person see something as good when it isn't. Also the impulse to do something, and you know it's wrong, and there's an impulse in the person, and it still moves the person in that direction. So in most sin, there's something, culpability, but a large amount of sin, there's also this element of not willing. As St. Augustine said, I do the things I hate doing. Paul said that. I don't understand my own behavior. I do the very things I hate, and the things I want to do, I fail to do, and I don't understand myself. That's a paraphrase of Romans 7. So this is I think people tend to get very harsh on people, and they don't understand this element of the non-voluntary, where they need healing, perhaps. Maybe 90% of what they do is impulsive, and somebody's high on drugs, and then when they come to in the morning, they find what they've done. They've killed somebody, and they didn't mean to do it, really. In their better selves, they realize they wouldn't have done it. And so that's why Jesus came, because we're not purely, that the law is, here it is, do it, or don't do it. And the reason Jesus came is that that's not enough. The law doesn't get us there. We need grace. We need help. But we have our human nature to contend with. Like, say, sexual sin, there's an attractiveness to it, and there's some payoff. But there's also this other element. And like, say, in pornography, frequently there's a demonic element. And if a person's in this long enough, it's in the pathways of the mind. There's a habit built up over the years that makes it very, very strong. So that somebody's been in pornography over a period of time, it's very hard for the person to shape up. And sometimes there's a demonic element propelling the person, increasing what's already there in our human nature. It's often said that homosexuality is tied to wounds of the past. And there are a variety. Each person is different, and it's a mistake to say all of it is caused by this or by this. But a lot of homosexuality is caused by a man seeking the love of another man. And when we're young, we really need the love of our fathers to affirm us as men, to make us want to be men and so forth. And if this young man doesn't receive the love of his father, it may not be the father's fault. The father may just be absent. He may be in the military and he just doesn't come home. He's over in Iraq for a year. All of those things. And so he needs this, humanly speaking, growing up. It's not sexual per se. It's the need for intimacy and affirmation. And if he doesn't receive this, and an older man who is homosexual in orientation and acts on it in a sexual way, may see this young man standing in the corner, as it were, feeling left out, not part of the group, maybe not very athletic or whatever it is that makes him feel like as a young man, like a real man, you know, like plays football with a broken ankle and plays anyway, all of that. And he's not that type, especially artistic types. And here's an older man who understands this, and he befriends this young man and sexualizes it eventually. And so it gets a sexual component, a physically sexual component, where it's acted out. And then it becomes a habit pattern, perhaps. And the people who understand him and his loneliness often are people in the sexual community, the homosexual lifestyle. And they understand this, and it becomes sexualized physically. Men in the church who are healthy sexually should be able to be friends to the younger generation in a healthy sense, and in the human order help fill that in, like an elder brother, father figure.
Pure passion that beats for Christ alone.